What's up, everybody?
Hello.
Welcome back to another episode of the Cryptid Files, the podcast where we talk about all manner of cryptids, monsters, folklore, myths, files, and all other kind of cool stuff. We're your hosts, as always, Anthony and Charlie. Today, we're going to talk about the Alkali Lake Monster.
Yeah.
Or Alkali.
Or
Alkali.
It's got a few names,
I think it's Alkali.
too. Yeah. I'll go over the names later.
I'm going to go with Alkali. Alkali's the name I like.
I like Alkali. Alkali's good.
Alkali? That sounds like an
It's
organization.
a lake. It's a fucking lake. So whatever they call the lake, the local Nebraskans.
How do Nebraskans talk?
They don't talk.
Are they the oh yeah kind of people?
Wait, do that again?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Nebraska.
Is that's Wisconsin? No, Wisconsin's over here. How do people from Nebraska talk?
Yeah, I don't know, man.
Because that would give us a lot of info on how they say alkali. Well, I don't know how they pronounce. So we're just gonna go with alkali.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the Alkali Lake Monster.
Yes. Do you want to go through your little spiel first, and I'll go through my history.
I'll go over a cool overview. So obviously, the Alkali Lake Monster comes to us from Alkali Lake, which is in Nebraska. The first sighting actually comes from 1921.
Yep.
So this is an old cryptid. We got about 100 plus years of this guy now. He's described as a 40-foot long, grayish-brown alligator with a horn in the center of its face.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what he is.
That's pretty much it. Description that we have.
That is the monster.
And it gets a little. There's some a little bit weirder descriptions too.
Yeah. As with most cryptids.
Yeah, that's the main one from the time frame there.
So Charlie, what you got? I said,
you told
me you got a bunch of newspaper articles.
So
let's hit some of these.
So we can start here. Let me just pull up some stuff. This is from the Hayspring News in 1921, and this is the what's it called? The first published sighting of this creature. Here I got it clipped so you can see a little bit better. So, if it isn't a whale, it's a whaler of an animal.
Wow.
Yeah, wow.
Now that's a title.
Yeah, that's a title. Chaz Hoffer and his wife and others report having recently seen the monster in the lake. So this is already a legend at the time in the area. This is kind of like a newspaper article about these people seeing it. They sat on the bank some time watching it and described it as a 2-foot broad and 10 or 12 foot long. As soon as permission is granted by the state authorities to use a seine or other means of capture, steps will be taken to capture it. There seems to be no question now, but what the fellow is there. It has been seen by many who have about the same story to tell, except that it seems to be growing larger each time. This is explained from the fact that it has become accustomed to being watched, and more of its body is being exposed. If it isn't a whale, it's a whaler of an animal anyway. But Charlie has advanced another idea. He says...
You did?
I did, yeah, that's me.
Well, I didn't know you were on 100
years
years ago.
He thinks it's a mud pup. Charlie never saw a mud pup, but he says of the magnitude of this one... He said, he's never seen a mud pup of the magnitude of this one.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I read that.
I was going to say, this is a mud pup. I've never seen a mud pup, but it's definitely a mud pup. The fuck is a mud pup?
Yeah. Although he has seen some that were at least 10 inches broad and a yard long, weighing about 25 pounds, he also says that about 5 years is the natural lifetime of a mud pup.
Pause.
Yeah.
What is a mud pup?
I'll show you after I read this.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure.
I have an image pulled up of a mud pup, and I'll show you. He sees no reason why a mud pup could not take a second or even a third growth and develop into a huge animal. But a mud pup doesn't spout water, so there you are. Okay, now what is a mud pup?
Yeah, what the fuck's a mud pup? That sounds like a racial slur.
Okay, it kind of does. This is a mud puppy.
Oh, it's an axolotl.
Yeah, pretty much. And they live in lakes and water, and it looks like that.
They're not fucking 40 feet long.
They're not 40 feet long at all. By no means are they 40 feet long. So this is what is originally being described here. They think it's some giant version of this, which is basically a lake monster.
But also, aren't axolotls native to Mexico?
I think they have some that
tropical.
Let's do a quick Google.
I'm gonna do it right now.
Yeah, you do the
I'm almost positive there are not axolotls in Nebraska.
Look at mud pups. Yeah, look it up the correct way.
Mud pups. Oh my god.
What'd you get?
They are the North American Mudpuppies.
Yeah.
Or North American axolotls.
Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So
holy shit, they're a type of salamander.
Yeah.
So they're not an axolotl, but they're almost an axolotl.
They're almost an axolotl.
They are aquatic salamanders with external gills. They're found from eastern Canada, including states like Michigan, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, and further south.
Yeah.
Hold on.
They're all over the place.
Are they in South Carolina?
Sure. It says further south. That's like the rest of the planet.
Are they in South Carolina? I need to know.
This is not the time for your ADHD to kick in and start Googling everything you know about mud pups.
All right, there are no mud pups in South Carolina.
Okay,
so in South Carolina, it's a racial slur.
Okay. That's terrible. All right, I'll get this guy off the screen real quick. All right, sweet. So that was the first publication of it, and that was 1921. Now afterwards, the Hayspring News put out another follow-up article here, and this was when they're talking about stocking the lake, and they kind of poked fun at it a little bit, and it almost becomes like a joke. And they're just talking about stocking fish here for a sec. In regard to the proposed signing to catch the monster animal in the lake, it's said that the game officials did not think they had a sign large enough to hold him, so the undertaking has been delayed indefinitely. They didn't have something large enough to hold it.
Hold this.
It's like a
monster.
Cage. Yeah. The latest, however, in regard to his actions, is said to be the story told by the Halstead brothers, who, when they went out to the lake Wednesday to plant fish from the state hatchery, said they saw nothing but an occasional rising and lighting of the many ducks on the water. But they heard a splashing of the water, which was very loud and sounded like the might of a horse pawing in the edge of the water. But there was no horse in evidence, and the restless movements of the ducks led to believe that the water animal was catching ducks for a feast. So they kind of were not taking it very seriously. No one saw the monster when they were stocking fish.
Right.
And from there, it gets kind of more messing with it, making fun of it. So this is another article here. And this is from the Lincoln Journal in August 1st, 1923.
Okay.
And they make this little cartoon, basically, making fun of the monster. It's a pretty cool cartoon.
Jeez, okay.
And they're like, oh, look at this joke of a lake monster thing, blah, 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 blah. And then, after this happens, and this was in August 1st, 1923, July 24th, 1923, we get another story.
This is the J.A. Johnson story,
This is the J.A. Johnson account.
Yeah, okay.
From the Omaha World News in Omaha, Nebraska. All right, Haysprings, the editor of the World Herald. There was an article on the Public Pulse the other day regarding to a lake monster in which the lake near Haysprings, which was probably intended to be funny. The article may have been funny to a good many people, but to those, and there are a good many, who have actually seen this monster, and to the great many more who have seen numerous evidences of its existence, a careful, decently conducted scientific study and an attempted capture of this beast for scientific purposes would have been more to the point than the writing of a so-called humorous articles. So basically, they're saying, you're making fun of this thing, but we believe it's 100% real.
Right, okay.
And this is J.A. Johnson now talking about what he said. I saw the monster myself last fall in the company of 3 other men, and I could name 40 people who have seen this unmistakable evidences of the brute's existence. A number of these have seen the animal, but owing to its apparent preference to nights, and apparently dark nights at the few, have a good view of the beast. I had a good view of it in the early dawn, together with Frank Johnson of near Chardon, Nebraska, and John Osborne of Lincoln. This was during the hunting trip of October 1922. Others in our party were George Smith and Lincoln John Donovan, I think from Lehigh, and Mr. Carter from University Place near Lincoln. Frank Johnson, John Osborne, and myself came upon the animal very unexpectedly, just scrolling up, about dawn October 20th or 21st, 1922. We have camped a short distance from the lake that night before, and all of us arose early in order to be out in time for the morning duck flight. Johnson, Osborne, and myself started to walk around the lake close to the shore in order to jump, when suddenly coming around a slight raise in the ground extending to a point near the shore, we came upon this animal, nearly 3/4 out of the water, in the shallow water near shore. We were less than 20 yards from it, and it saw us at the same time we came upon it. It lifted its head and made a peculiar hissing noise and went into the lake very rapidly, much like a turtle scampering off a log. Frankly, We were all frightened at the unexpected meeting, and we could hardly believe our senses, for we had heard a great deal of laughing and joking in the neighborhood of Hay Springs and Charlton about this so-called mythical saurian. However, we were fairly well agreed on several points as follows. This animal was probably 40 feet long, including tail and head. When raised in alarm, as it was when we first saw it, must have been fully 6 feet off the ground. In general appearance, the animal was not unlike an alligator, except that its head was stubbier, and there seemed to be a projection somewhat like a small horn between the eyes and nostrils. The animal was built much more heavily throughout than an alligator and was not at all sluggish in its actions. Its color seemed dull gray or brown, although it was hardly light enough to distinguish color well. There was, however, a very distinctive and somewhat unpleasant odor, noticeable for several moments after the beast itself had vanished into the water.
So it shit itself.
Yeah, it shit itself pretty much. No. We stood in several minutes after the animal had gone, hardly knowing what to do or say, when we noticed several hundred feet from our shore a considerable commotion in the water, somewhat like a school of fish sometimes makes. Sure enough, the animal came to the surface, floated there a moment, and then, lashing the water with its tail, suddenly dived, and we saw no more of it. My theory is that there is a subterraneous passage from the lake to other underground lakes, and that the beast and probably others lives underground in these subterranean waters. Coming up, only occasionally such geological formations are not at all rare, and many underground lakes are known to exist in the United States. Some in large caves in Kentucky, Virginia, and elsewhere, where blind fish and other creatures have been frequently found. Animal life that never sees the light. I can explain the animal's presence on no other grounds, as the lake is not a very large one. And it or they could easily locate at almost any time if they remained in the lake all the time. While in the winter they could be frozen into the ice. Of course, I would like to hear from others who have experienced the sight of this or the rare animals, and I would certainly be glad to have this mystery unraveled. J.A. Johnson. And that was the most notable,
detailed account,
written, detailed account.
Yeah.
And after this came out, people started talking about this monster like it was a serious thing in town.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot, it was a legend in town before that first article came out in 1921, too. Because, you know, that article was written...
So that first sighting, there's predates to it, because that first sighting is the first official, documented sighting.
Yeah, that's the first, documented sighting. It talks about people seeing the well-known creature.
I'm noticing a common theme with a lot of cryptids is stink.
Yeah.
I've noticed that.
That is
I've noticed that lately. As we do more and more
cryptids.
research, a lot of cryptids have a stink.
Yeah. Like the sheep squatch.
The sheep squatch smelled of sulfur and had acidic pee. This one reeked. Agua had a smell. Grafted Monster had a smell. Didn't Mothman have a stink?
I imagine not.
Jersey Devil smells of sulfur. Almost every single, you smell it before you see it.
A lot of the ones that are demonic based seem to have a sulfury smell too. I don't know if that's a trend for some reason, but the Jersey Devil, the sheep squatch, the ones that are
the Wendigo smells.
Wendigo, yeah. Well, the ones that are supposed to have some type of spiritual presence in a sense.
Yeah.
So
didn't the Mahaha stink too, of rotting fish or some shit? I don't remember.
I think so, yeah.
I've done so many of these. It's hard to keep track sometimes.
It is hard to keep track. But
yeah, interesting. Okay.
It's a cool thing about doing this research, though, because we can compare them and actually understand, hey, I see a pattern here. Something like the demonic cryptids seem to have this sulfur smell coming from them. And
right.
The wild animal cryptids are wild animals.
Wild animals. They smell like wild animals.
They smell like wild animals.
But then again, there are wild animals that smell like sulfur.
Yeah.
Look at ferrets.
Yeah, that's true.
They reek of sulfur.
And also, you know what? Some lakes fucking stink too.
That's true. The lake just could smell because it got
just
turned
be a
up.
Smelly fucking lake.
Remember Lake Hopatcong? That shit stinks.
It's terrible.
Mick Ultra tastes like Lake Hopatcong.
You know, but
if you drink Mick Ultra, you're wrong.
Yeah, and really, there hasn't been any more sightings.
Yeah, it is theorized that this thing died.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a sighting, I think, since the 30s.
Yeah.
And even then, I don't even think it made it to the 30s.
Yeah. And then people have talked about it in the 80s, but that's because after they had their centennial celebration, suddenly started talking about the lake monster again. But it was kind of like a...
But were they talking about it because they were seeing it again, or were they talking about it because they brought back the legends from the 100 years ago?
talked about it first because they were bringing back the legend from 100 years ago, and then like 3 people said that I've seen the thing before, but
that could possibly be chalked up to the usual that we've seen in a lot of places where it's like the legend has died out and somebody brings it up again as their 15 minutes of fame and be like,
yeah,
oh wait, I saw the thing. No,
yeah,
you did it.
It definitely could be. So,
well, I do have some information here that theorizes that this is a complete hoax as well.
Okay.
Because one of the newspapers that was running a lot of these stories.
Yeah.
One of the chief writers was this man named John G. Mayer.
And he was the known hoax artist.
He was a known hoax artist.
He was the guy that made the petrified human statue out of concrete.
I forget, it's the something giant. But yeah, he was known to be a hoax artist. He made a petrified giant and then dug it up and found it, like all this kind of stuff. So basically what he would do was he was a contract writer for these newspapers.
Yeah.
And basically how that works is you write a story, but you only get paid if they publish it.
Yeah.
So he started writing outlandish stories because people wanted to read them.
Yeah.
So the newspapers would publish them. So there's a lot of cryptids that unfortunately don't exist, but there's stories about him because he was making them up and sending them to these publications so that he could get paid. So there's a handful of them. There's, I think, 2 or 3 of them on our schedule that I know of that were from him. And this is another one that's possibly his own creation. The only thing that gives us any merit is that there are stories published by other papers that he didn't write that came out before him. Well, so
when
was
his papers published? Was it
in the mid-20s?
Yeah.
So that's
because
why,
these the original accounts are before.
Right. That's why there's not necessarily that the entire story is a hoax, but that a lot of the sightings might be fake.
Here's the problem with these hoax writers too. They'll write a hoax story about something that already exists, and it
discredits it.
It discredits stories so much, and people are like, "Oh, the known hoax guy wrote about it." I'm like, "Yeah, but look at the guys that wrote about it before he did."
Right.
There's a lot that gets kind of like pushed under the rug because these April Fool's guys go ahead and
ruin
make jokes about it. Like the guy that made the fake Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
And he stapled
stapled cardboard wings to a kangaroo.
Yeah.
Or taped cardboard wings. But he just painted a kangaroo green and stuck cardboard wings on it.
And said, "Look, I found the Jersey Devil."
Yeah,
then,
but that was 100 years after the Jersey Devil had been first sighted.
Yeah. And they thought the platypus was a hoax when they brought him to England.
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh yeah, somebody made this." And I was like, no, this is real.
No seams on a platypus.
Yeah, a bunch of doctors thought the platypus was actually a fucking fake piece of shit. Anything that comes from Australia.
Anything that comes from Australia is not real.
Australia, yeah. Dude,
Australia is a cryptid.
Australia is a cryptid. That's where the platypus is from.
Yep. Yep. Exactly. The Tasmanian devil, that ain't real. I mean, it's dead now, but that wasn't real.
Wasn't real.
Kangaroos, they're not real. Goddamn koala bears? You mean the syphilis-infected teddy bears that kill people? Yeah. No, that ain't real.
Isn't that crazy? There's like a huge syphilis problem.
They all have syphilis.
They all have syphilis.
All
the koala bears.
It's very dangerous to get scratched by a koala bear.
Yeah, you get syphilis.
Immediately.
No way.
Oh my god, yeah. They all have it.
Really?
It's like in their genes.
They just have syphilis?
Some of them get born with syphilis.
That's wild.
Yeah, dude.
That's insane.
Is it syphilis?
Syphilis.
It is syphilis.
Syphilis.
Or is it like gonorrhea or something? It's one of the STDs.
Syphilis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Charlie, how would you fight the Alkali Lake Monster?
How would I fight a giant mud puppy with a horn?
Yeah.
Alright, dude. So you gotta think about fighting it the same way that you would fight like an alligator if you needed to.
Get behind it, grab its tail, sit on its face.
Well,
there's a horn. Don't do that. You'll get a horn on your ass.
Yeah. No, I would basically have to jump on its back.
Okay.
Because it's got no ability.
Yeah, it has no hands.
It's got no hands or nothing. And then I have a feeling at that point it would try to bring me underwater, and I would just go underwater.
Or it might roll over on you.
Yeah.
Remember, it is 60 feet long and like a yard wide.
Yeah. Now, do mud puppies have gills?
They have external gills.
External gills?
Yeah, like the axolotl. They have those kind of like tree branch gills things.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm going to start ripping on those. That
would hurt.
Yeah, well, that's how you bleed out a fish.
You rip its gills out?
Yeah, you rip its gills. You cut through its gills, and then it bleeds out and dies. Oh. So, if I had to fight a giant mud puppy with a horn, yeah, that's what I would do. I'd just get on its back, get my hands on the gills, and just start ripping. Rah, 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 rah. And it would all be dependent if I can get to its back, obviously.
Because at 60 feet long, he could probably swirl pretty well.
Am I already in the lake when I encounter it, or am I outside the lake and I run in to get it?
It's always random encounters. So like you're fishing or some shit.
I'm fishing, dude. Dude, it would be so much easier if I was on like a fucking a pier or something over the lake, like a fishing pier. Possibility. But yeah,
there is fish. It's a camping site, so
I would just dive on it, dude. If I could land on the back immediately, it'd be fucking game over for this fucker. Dead on. I'd fucking get it.
Until it grabs your fucking leg in its mouth and
wouldn't be able to. No,
it's got a 40-foot death roll.
Dude, you know what? It can rip my leg off, but I promise you, it's not getting out there alive. I'll die, but you're gonna die too. I'm gonna do some damage. It's gonna hurt.
I, to this day, still admire your confidence, Charlie.
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone
would you be able to fight this one?
Absolutely not. It's a 40-foot long mud puppy with a horn.
You got no confidence in yourself.
I have confidence
in faith in your abilities.
In my abilities.
I think you can do it.
I understand my abilities, and I know what I'm capable of.
First of all, you can fight any cryptid with a stick. That's
I don't know about that.
Commentary.
I still think that the Jersey Devil will eat the shit out of you. Yeah. All right, I think it's time to rate this thing.
Okay, yeah. Let's rate it.
Let's get the math duck up.
The math duck. Everybody, look at our wonderful math duck. It's going to help us do some math today.
It's math in time.
It's math in time for the math duck.
So, Charlie, how real do you think the Alkali Lake Monster is?
Okay, dude. You know what? When I hear cryptid stories like this, there's things that I like about them. One, it is from 1920s, is like the first recorded account of it. There was talk about it beforehand.
So you're looking at like late 19-teens.
Yeah. Somebody saw something in that lake at some point, and it became a story for a reason. It also was not cited a bunch after its proposed lifespan. Yeah. So that makes even more sense to me. So this thing could have died. It's not like people have seen it for the past 100 years.
Right.
And the explanation of there being like a subterranean
tunnel system.
That
is a thing. That's swam underground rivers. So.
Possibly. We're very bad about finding stuff in lakes and rivers.
We're really bad at anything water.
There's a group of guys that go around with magnets and go magnet fishing for like car parts and stuff, and they find vehicles that crash into the rivers and were abandoned and solve crimes just with a magnet.
Yeah.
But they haven't. Police have not been able to do that for years.
Yeah.
So it's got a very good likelihood of being real. I haven't seen it personally, so I don't. That's how our rating system works, real quick. It's 0 is I know this thing's not real 100%. 5 is this thing is definitely real. I've seen it. I know it. I have some type of physical confirmation. I do not have that for this. But I do have high beliefs that there is something wild that lived in that lake, and that's where this story came from. So I'm going to give it a 4.
A 4, okay.
Yeah.
So, I agree with everything you're saying. For me, it does lose a couple points because of the hoax writing.
That was after, though.
But again, even with that, it's after the fact. It just still kind of does mar the, reputation of it. But, with that, it is still, it predates its own first sighting.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. It did disappear, like you said, within its own lifespan that they proposed. It was only around for about 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
So that's what you'd kind of expect from a big reptile.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to agree with you. I think I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5.
Yeah. 4 out of 5.
I think it's going to be a 4.
It's a really good score for the likelihood of something being real. Too.
Yeah. I think I've given 2 5s in this entire almost year run that we've done.
And it was for the one that we have a body for.
One was a body for, and one was a giant turtle.
Yeah.
So
I was like, that's fucking real. I've seen some pretty big turtles.
I've seen some big turtles. I almost got eaten by a big turtle.
Yeah. But, alright, cool. How cool do you think this guy is? It's a lake monster.
It's pretty cool, actually. Yeah. It's Mudpuppy. It gave us a new term for our fans. Y'all love our Mudpuppies. And it's just kind of like, it has a neat visual to it. It's this big reptile-y, squat alligator with a horn.
Yeah.
It's like a rhinosigator. So
that's a good term.
Right?
Rhinosigator. Yeah.
So I like thinking about it. It's got a cool look to it. It feels like a Godzilla monster. I feel like this is something that like Godzilla would fight in Tokyo or some shit. So I think he's pretty damn cool. I think he could use some more. Not that we can embellish. Like, I don't want him to be embellished. If this is what he really is what he really is. He could be cooler, but he's neat enough. So I'm gonna give him 3.5.
3.5. Cool.
Yeah, solid 3.5.
All right, I'm gonna tell you this, dude. I like cryptids that kill. I like cryptids that fight.
You do like the violent cryptids.
I like violent cryptids.
You also like the gross cryptids, too.
I love gross cryptids, too. Big old Mudpuppy, man. It's cool, I guess. It's not super cool, though. So, I'll give it a 2.5.
2.5, that's
2.5, yeah.
It's like a goddamn kaiju, dude.
2.5,
I mean, 40 feet is small, but still.
Yeah, it's
a goddamn kaiju. It's like 8 years.
It's a big old thing in the lake that's got a horn on its head. It's cool. but it's not a...
You say it's not cool until you see it in real life. You're like, oh, shit.
It's not something that's going to pass a curse on to me. It's not something.
Do you think rhinoceroses are cool?
Yeah.
Do you think alligators are cool?
Yeah, but if
why would you not think them put together is cool?
Okay, sweet. If I was going to say I was going to compare the sheep squatch to a fucking alligator, I'd be like, sheep squatch is way fucking cooler than alligator. Which is why I gave the sheep squatch such a cool fucking rating.
I don't agree with you.
2.5 is a good fucking midpoint, man.
It is the midpoint. What do you mean it's a good midpoint? It's the midpoint.
Yeah.
All right.
Midpoint.
Fine. We're allowed to disagree. We had a big disagreement in the last one.
Oh, yeah. Terrible disagreement.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, I was right, but...
You're not even close. The people spoke with me.
No,
all right. How unique do you think this is?
Dude, okay. It is a lake monster,
which is a dime a dozen.
A dime a dozen. But it's not Nessie.
Yeah, it's not a big long-necked dinosaur.
It's not a big long-necked dinosaur.
Or a snake, because there's a bajillion
or a snake. This one's a little different. It's almost more unique because it's a lake monster that isn't that classic lake monster that we hear about.
Yeah.
There's not many giant axolots with a horn. In fact, I don't know of any other giant axolots with a horn.
As far as I've seen with the scheduling, I think this is the only one that I remember.
Yeah. And yes, it's not even, dude, because I wouldn't say all land cryptids are the same. All lake cryptids are definitely not the same. It just lives in a lake area, but it's totally different than fucking Nessie.
I mean, the Graphic Monster was considered a lake cryptid.
Yeah, it's totally different than Champ. It's totally different than all the fucking other snake ones. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say it's pretty fucking unique, and I'll give it a 4.5 for uniqueness.
Honestly, I think I'm going to just agree with you on that, because it's a lake monster. So I'm going to get a docket points for that being a, what do you call it? Like, named the lake monster. There's a million this lake monster, and this lake monster, and this lake monster, and that lake monster. There's a lake called Pakong monster that we're going to cover at one point. Like, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's going to lose half a point for that. But like you said, it is not the run-of-the-mill, stereotypical, giant, long-necked dinosaur lake monster or the water serpent lake monster that are dime a dozen. And it's not even a giant fish monster that we have a million of that we're going to cover. So, yeah, I'd give it a 4.5.
4.5. Cool. Yeah, solid. All right, sweet. So we have our
numbers.
Ratings, our numbers. So let's go ahead and do our Math Duck calculations, everybody.
Math Duck is ready.
Math Duck's ready. All right, so we got a 4.0 plus 4.0 plus 2.5 plus 3.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5. Monster score here for a lake monster. It's 23 out of 30.
Oh, I preemptively quacked.
Yeah. 23 out of 30.
23 out of 30. I think that's our best score since we changed the rating system.
Yes. Yeah, definitely is.
We have to go back and double check everything, but I do think that puts him on top, especially definitely for this year.
Definitely for the year.
So far.
That's a good rating, though.
That's a great rating.
It's a great rating for a fucking lake monster, too. Yeah. No, it's cool. It's a cool one. It's a good one. I'm glad we covered it.
So, as I say at the end of every episode, if you are not already following us and you're just lurking, give us a follow. We really appreciate it, and that helps us all out. If you are not a member of our Discord, speaking of, go check that out. We chat there. We share memes. We update you guys on what's going on with the news. I send you pictures of sexy Mothman. I haven't done that in a while. I gotta look up some more.
I'm glad you stopped.
We bullshit with everybody else. It's a good time. Yeah. We have merchandise. Go check out our Designs by Humans store.
Yes.
Buy
t-shirts, buy mugs, buy stickers.
All up there now. Everything that we have, all of our Cryptid Files episode art is up on our Designs by Humans stores. You can get hoodies, you can get t-shirts, you can get tank tops, you can get mugs, you can get pint glasses, you can get shot glasses, you can get water bottles, like the metal ones, stickers. You can get prints if you want to hang them in your room. I try to keep that as updated as I can, but we have day jobs. Go check us out on Instagram and Facebook. That's where we post updates on the non-podcast stuff as well as the podcast stuff. So all of our paranormal investigations, and that's all cool stuff there. Follow us on TikTok.
Yeah.
And you get clips and funny shit there we pull out of our stuff. And I think that's all of our social media. Right, guys? We'll see you guys all in the next one.
Yeah. See you next week, Mudpuppies.
Peace out, Mudpuppies.
All right. Goodbye.